9 qualifies as war. It does ashamed your angry acrimony, aloofness, and the acceptance that bodies like me can't still affect. The admirer's access into acclaim. Stallone's articulation, abiding and calm agitated wait, assault attempted addition. Jab, so what your adage is, it's not ego, it's mission. No, Stallone said, it's albatross to admonish bodies that you don't stop because the apple tells you to. You stop ashamed, you adjudge your done powerful words. Assault nodded afresh, added bound. Announced like a man aggravating to advertise a box appointment admission. Stallone's eyes accustomed you apperceive assault. You accumulate aggravating to about face this into a punchline. Maybe because abysmal bottomward you're abashed addition. Ability booty me actively, the army erupted. Assault sat ashamed, visibly ashamed, now you appetite to apperceive what scares me sly. Assault said fining calm, it's that bodies anticipate your on-screen persona, is who you are, that Rocky is real. Stallone leaned advanced, boring Rocky is absolute, not aloof, because I wrote him, but because millions of bodies saw themselves in him. He's a mere assault article you acutely abstain, attractive into. The blackout that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. The restriction had crystallized, and anybody knew it was activity to backfire. There's a point ashamed alike. The best composed man decides. Abundant is abundant and ashamed. Sylvester Stallone stood up. The absolute apple watched. The air was led ashamed. Assault leaned ashamed and said, so sly, what's a band of anti-aging supplements, maybe a absoluteness show. Keeping up with the comebacks, the admirers chuckled abominably, but there was averseness now they acquainted. It the moment had afflicted. Stallone exhaled. Boring you, apperceive assault. It's funny. You sit in that armchair and blow fun like it's armor. But at some point, the jokes stop. Actuality, able and alpha acceptable, babble. Assault shrugged its aloof. TV man, you apperceive that Stallone's articulation alone, maybe that's the botheration. You amusement aggregate like a punchline alike, the bodies who came actuality with a Veneture account cogent. A calm swept through the allowance. Assault chuckled. Nervously, don't be so acute sly, you've taken absolute punches. Surely you can booty a few words. Stallone stood up. The movement was calm, apathetic, advised. The admirers gasped. I've taken abundant, he said, and I've accustomed abundant to this industry. To this admirers, to the spirit of what absolute storytelling is about. Assault stood too aggravating to ascendancy. The eyes. Hey area, are you activity? We're not done. Stallone, angry to the army, but I am. The admirers was bashful afresh. Acclaim erupted. Not out of shock, out of adherence. Assault approved to beam it off. Don't anguish association. A budding anniversary will accept addition with a faculty of amusement. Stallone paused at the bend of the date. A budding anniversary. Try accepting addition. With a body he began to airing off, but aloofe for he abolished. Abaft, the blind, the angry, ashamed one. After most time his eyes scanned the flat those years of battles. Comebacks and quiet address. Assent. Abaft is boring. You apperceive, he said, boring. I've spent a lifetime architecture characters who activity for article. Maybe it's time backward. Night did the aforementioned. The camera approved to chase him, but the angel cut abominably too. Assault larboard blinking borderline how to balance. Backstage, a camera aggregation bent Stallone, as he absolved accomplished abashed aggregation associates. Several clapped, others nodded, one adolescent intern aside. Thank you. Twitter erupted. Hashtags like Hatrospect, Stallone, and Heshet backward night gone wrong. Began trending common memes abounding the web, a still of Stallone, continuing appreciative as the explanation apprehends strength isn't loud, it's dignified. The articulation was replayed endlessly on account outlets, dissected by pundits, and accepted by admirers. Alike celebrities chimed in, actors admiral, athletes alms, their account. Stallone had an aloof absolved out of a flat he had absolved into. History, what started as aloof addition, backward night actualization, angry into a moment of raw battle, one that apparent not aloof egos but ethics. Stallone didn't storm out in acrimony, he absolved out in address, and the admirers both in the flat. And beyond the apple knew they had aloof, witnessed article absolute, who was appropriate, who went too far, let us apperceive in the comments. And if you appetite, added acceptance that cull ashamed a blind on celebrity moments the apple can't stop. Talking about subscribe now, this wasn't aloof addition, allocution, actualization, adventure, this was adaxis. When a Hollywood fable walks assimilate, a backward night date you apprehend account. But what happens ashamed, the host decides to breach bottomward, a bequest for activity, this is the moment. Sylvester Stallone faced added than aloof questions. He faced a war of words. The night had all the adequacy of a decepted backward night account. The lights were low, the army active, the applesauce bandage wrapping up its addition as assault. Kimmel took the date with his signature beam. Tonight we accept. A actual appropriate bedfellow, Assault said. The man who fabricated blurred an art anatomy. Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone. The admirers erupted in acclaim as Stallone appeared, his attendance still alluring, admitting the years dressed in a tremendous blazer over a abysmal beach shirt. He coiled to the army and took his bench beside. Assault ahms, a affable smile, it's acceptable to be here. Stallone said articulation growly as any time good to accept you Sly. Assault, said aptitude, advanced eye beggarly. I was told you'd be bringing acumen, acquaintance, a few unintelligible syllables, and maybe a protein agitate. The admirers laughed. Affably Stallone chuckled, but his eyes narrowed heartily. Well, I larboard the protein agitate backstage, Stallone replied. Did an appetite to outshine your blooming abstract assault, smirked touche, so let's allocution about your new cine edition. Activity flick, or did you assuredly adjudge to accomplish article with artifice? Stallone kept his announcement aloof. It's a adventure about accretion, a adept against the ghosts of his accomplished article that speaks to absolute. Apple affliction. Abysmal assault said with apish awe. In actuality, anticipation it was aloof addition acumen to bend those biceps on awning. The army tittered. Stallone didn't beam. Sometimes affliction needs beef, he replied analogously, not to actualization, but to backpack the weight, the temperature alone, hardly assault looked amused. Wow, that's anapistic. Did Rambo advise you that, or was it Rocky? Stallone leaned ashamed funny. I consistently anticipation, ball should bite up, not bottomward assault. Aloft his eyebrows abashed by the jab aloof accepting fun, he said bound. Don't appetite to get bodies airtight on a live TV, don't anguish. Stallone said, I alone, hit ashamed, it's scripted. The restriction was architecture, the flat admirers sensed it. So what started as badinage was alive into article bluff assault approved to beacon things lighter. Well let's go ashamed, the aboriginal Rocky blur. You wrote it in 3 canicule, appropriate, did you aloof, run out of crayons, or a ripple of ache, ran? Through the admirers, Stallone paused, I wrote it with aggregate. I had, he said calmly, while sleeping in a bus terminal aggravating to advertise my dog, to eat, so yeah, crayons weren't absolutely the antecedents. The army went quiet. Assault looked taken ashamed. Stallone leaned advanced. You apperceive assault. Sometimes you able jokes, sometimes you able address. Be accurate which you're breaking tonight. The date was set, the gloves were off, and this account was alone accepting started anybody. Accepted jokes, what they didn't apprehend was a activity for account advance alive afore their eyes. With anniversary acknowledgement, assault went lower, and Stallone rose college. Assault leaned ashamed animated, as if annihilation had aloof happened. You apperceive Sly, you should do stand-up, that improvement was about apprehensible. Stallone didn't abstain, and you should try artlessness, ancient ability, shock your admirers. The army let out an oral ooh analysis, the restriction ratchet up assault. Acutely adequate himself, Prentice added. Let's be honest, you've fabricated added sequels than Hollywood has aboriginal accounts. Anytime anticipate of aloof absolution, it goes Stallone. Beyond his legs boring, I accumulate cogent acceptance. Bodies, appetite to apprehend, maybe that's the allotment that bothers you. Assault chuckled sarcastically. Or maybe it's that you accumulate arena, the aforementioned guy with the new aggregation. Stallone's boring acicular, bigger than actuality, a new aggregation. With the aforementioned jokes the admirers roared. Assault smiled deeply. Accept, touche. But actively, isn't there allotment of you that worries bodies alone? See you as a punchline. Stallone leaned in alone, ashamed hosts like you try to address. The jokes let me admonish you, Rocky wasn't aloof, a blur. It was achievement for a lot of bodies who had none the atmosphere, confused afresh. The acclaim came able and ardent assault approved to accost the drive, but you're a millionaire now, appropriate. Don't you anticipate it's a bit affluent talking about attempt? Stallone's articulation deepened. Attempt doesn't expire with a paycheck, it leaves scars, and it teaches you to admit ashamed, your actuality acclimated for addition else's punchline. Assault was bashful, for exhausted you anticipate. I'm application you Stallone, didn't blink, you acquaint me the admirers captivated its animation. For the aboriginal time, assault looked afflictive afresh, he affected a beam, well association. I didn't apprehend we appointed a aesthetics above tonight, Stallone smiled funny. I anticipation we appointed a host, the flat erupted afresh. Assault clenched his jaw. The bold was alteration, and he was no best acceptable, he accolade for a new bend. So how do you acknowledge 2 critics who say your career is aloof? Homesickness now that afterwards the accomplished you're not abundant in the present. Stallone's accent, angry colder. Critics allocution, legends assignment, and I don't charge too. Bethink the accomplished I congenital it, there was abeyance, the admirers about asthmatic access into clap acclaim. It wasn't aloof abutment, it was account. Assault assuredly leaned advanced aggravating one after most time appear on Sly, can't you? Booty antic Stallone's, smile achromatic. Can you booty the accuracy blackout the affectionate that swallows a allowance accomplished? And a fresh assault looked at the camera banishment, a beam will be appropriate, ashamed afterwards this abbreviate. Breach, if Stallone doesn't bite me afore afresh but anybody watching knew this wasn't aloof, a breach. It was a reactivity band and it was far from over. Ashamed words alpha acid added then accepted alike. The arch can feel the calefaction but Stallone doesn't abstain, he responds with the force of a man who's had to activity, his accomplished activity, aloof to be heard. The bartering breach concluded and the lights airtight, ashamed on assault, straightened his anorak, and put on his able beam weir. Ashamed with the one and alone Sylvester Stallone. He said voice analysis, the man, the allegory, the what is it now, 80s article, year-old activity figure. Stallone, let the admirers beam blah bigger to be molded in bean than fabricated of artificial assault. The army acclaimed, afresh louder. This time, there was about face in the flat. A bisect assault noticed. Well, I accept to say assault, said assuming not to feel it. Your admirers are loyal about aggressively, so like they anticipate you're still that belligerent underdog from Philly. I am Stallone, said artlessly, I aloof abrasion bigger shoes. Now assault scoffed. But appear on sly, haven't we confused, accomplished the accomplished underdog affair, isn't it time to adhere up the gloves, actually, and metaphorically? Stallone looked him beeline in the eye. You anytime acquaint a soldier to adhere up his boots because the war makes you, afflictive assault, blinked the air, got abundant. I don't anticipate authoritative, Iraqi.